Alright everybody, and welcome to another episode of Would I Buy? And as the cool kids would say, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, but don't smash your computer. So we're looking at Jack Move, and this is the Icebreaker demo, or the ICE Breaker demo. So I don't know if the actual game is called Icebreaker, I don't know. But yeah, so I've just called it Jack Move. And this is an RPG, but it's sort of set in, I suppose you could say, well, let's just call it, I was going to say a cyberpunk, but it kind of doesn't feel like a cyberpunk when I started playing it, which I kind of like. It, I don't know, as weird as it sounds, it's sort of as if I was playing a very much a 2D, well, 2D, not 2D, more of a 16-bit, like, retro style, very classic RPG, but it's also, it's not very cyberpunk yet. I have played, like, the Ammo Nation, and that felt like the cyberpunk. This kind of just felt like the Matrix. It took me a long time to think of that just then. But yeah, that was the first thing that kind of came to mind. Kind of that you got jumped straight into the action on this one. In terms of like, it's kind of like one mini dungeon when you started playing, and it kind of just jumped straight into a tutorial. Now I will be honest, when I was playing it, I got a little bit confused when it came to the terminology. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit tech savvy, but obviously not as much these days. But I did understand all the terms that it was trying to tell me, but I was kind of getting a little bit mixed up at times, like where it was basically understanding, right, okay, so what's an attack? What is magic? Okay, so I'm used to a very traditional type of RPG where it was pretty much your attack, your magic, which is pretty much what this type of RPG is. Albeit it has obviously switched it around, so instead of attack you hack, does that make sense? And instead of using magic, you execute software programs, and it uses up, was it like data or memory or something like that, but essentially that is your magic power. So it's pretty much your standard affair when it comes to like your other traditional type of RPGs. And although it kind of got me a little bit confused with the terminology at first, I think it's something that I could easily get used to. So that's absolutely fine there. And yeah, beyond that though, when it comes to your characters, it's very much a traditional classic RPG, and I really like that. So obviously it involves like you get hardware in terms of collecting certain hardware upgrades, which I think bit sort of throws you can install these hardware programs which essentially improve your defense, and this is pretty much the same as equipping armor. Likewise, you have certain RAM, and which, like I say, you can use basically like your magic skills. And I like the fact that they've kind of put a different spin on it. As weird as it sounds, and it took a bit of getting used to, I kind of like that they've created a traditional RPG, but sort of thrown, especially considering we've got every other cyberpunk type game that's set in this world. I don't know, it's like they have to switch the combat. I've never seen a cyberpunk game, at least not that I'm aware of, a cyberpunk inspired game with such traditional RPG like elements, and I think that really went in its favour when I was playing it. Of course, obviously you get like patches as well, which I think is basically like your items. So obviously you get your potions and stuff like that, so you can basically like install patches. And I think it's like they've really put a bit of thought into that, which I do appreciate. And the one thing when it came to actually playing, the main thing that I actually noticed, which, oh my god, straight away as soon as I realized it, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm really enjoying this. I know it's such a simple concept. It's the fact that the skills that you've got, which is basically like the magic that you've got, you can level them up. And I know it's such a simple thing, but oh my god, I love it when RPGs incorporate this type of leveling up. It's that gratification that you get from, grinding a bit. Now, obviously, I think I have criticised others, albeit, I'll admit, I have criticised other games where it can be a bit of a grind, but here is an example of when I kind of don't mind a grind, where it doesn't feel like too much of a grind, and you've always got like the little micro mini goals to go for. Because I'm one of those people where sometimes I don't always worry about the end goal of the story. Sometimes I kind of just don't mind setting my own little goals and leveling up a few little, equipment here and there. And I mentioned in other reviews, I can't remember which one it were, where, like Final Fantasy, I loved the fact that in Final Fantasy 9, for example, that you could equip weapons and they had their own little skills that you could essentially do a bit of grinding and you get that skill, and I love that. And this is the type of grinding that I do like and I find enjoyment out of, because it doesn't feel like too much of a long stretch for your next reward. You've always got like little goals that you can aim for, and this to me is kind of like when it's done right, and I really appreciated that. Now, obviously, looking at some of the skills and situations like that, it looks like you've got a maximum of maybe like 13 or 14 slots, because obviously each of the magic skills that you've got, I'll say, they take up so many slots, and it's sort of a matter of managing it. So I can presume that if it shows a maximum of maybe 13, 14 slots, is that the total maximum? I presume it is. I don't know for certain. But I don't know if it'll be the longest game, judging off that. But obviously, the price probably, it's taken that into consideration. It's not a AAA title, it is an indie title, and I'm not expecting the longest. And sometimes RPGs can go way too long anyway, so I'm kind of not too worried about that. I went a little bit off topic then, so where was I? Yeah, so all the gameplay part I really do enjoy. It's your typical standard traditional RPG, but I like that, and it's good. The music itself is good. I like it. It was very much classic, also 16-bit inspired as well, and I enjoyed it. There were some catchy tunes from what I heard, albeit the demo is pretty short. But from what I heard there, I think I could get into the music. I could really enjoy just listening to this music, so that goes in favour. The characters, the short amount of time that I spent with them, there also seems like it could be pretty interesting. I mean, this is like I said, this is like I kind of thought of it as like the Matrix. As weird, it's like if Matrix were to make an RPG, this is how I would kind of expect it. That would make a good RPG, actually. Not an action game, an RPG. Yeah, that's how the impression that I got from it. The character seemed pretty interesting. I don't know where it would be going in terms of the story, because it didn't really delve into much, but it seemed like it could potentially go somewhere. But obviously I have not heard much of the story from the demo. Nah, so obviously all of that's pretty positive. If I were to have one little nitpicky thing, it would be when it comes to the battle systems. Now, I shouldn't really be complaining about this because obviously it was how it were. Classic RPGs, you know, it were random battles, random encounters. You walk around the dungeon and then you enter random encounters. And it seems to be the same here. Now, I'm obviously, in more recent RPGs, I'm used to the kind where naturally you enter a battle. You see the characters on screen or you see the monsters on screen and you enter the battle. And that's how I've got used to it, and I do like that. I'm not, or should I say, I've grown out of love a little bit when it comes to the random encounters. Obviously, it's nostalgia that plays a part when it comes to playing classic like Final Fantasy games, but when it's a new game, I kind of prefer to see the enemies if I had the option. So I kind of wasn't the biggest fan of the random encounters. Like, now if there was an option to turn it off, I could deal with it a little bit more. I don't know if there is, to be honest. I never properly looked through. But yeah, that would have been my only gripe. But as I say, that is a little bit of a nitpick, and to be honest, I wouldn't really say that it pulls the game down all that much, because like I say, maybe it's just nostalgia speaking that I can accept that. I can deal with that. It's just obviously, if I had the preference, yeah, I would have preferred that. But hey ho, it doesn't matter. I will accept that decision. So if it obviously, when it came to buying, like I say, I wouldn't let that falter in goal, and yes, I would actually buy this game because I haven't seen an RPG like this, like a cyberpunk type with traditional RPG mechanics, if that makes sense. You see a lot of them, like obviously cyberpunk and other type of RPGs. Never really seen one like this with traditional like attack and magic, if that makes sense. So I'm on board with that. I do like this kind. It's nice to see a traditional type of RPG that has classic fantasy like RPG mechanics. I have said mechanics a lot, so we'll leave it at that. And yeah, as of course, that is just my opinion. So, how about you guys? Have you played the demo? What did you think of it? And would you buy it? Would you wait for the sale? Me? Yeah. I want to support these type of things, because I want to see more RPGs set in this type of world, or just modern day RPGs, to be honest. It don't have to be cyberpunk. Sometimes I actually just prefer a modern day one. The best RPGs that I've seen recently that kind of did that would have been something like Yakuza Like a Dragon. That, yeah, stuff like that. I love that. But yeah, that's just my opinion. So yeah, let us know. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Laters.